Great. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for working on that, taking care of our technical needs. Welcome, all of you, everyone who's here with us and those joining us online. This is the Wasatch Front Regional Council meeting. Today is Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. My name is Dawn Ramsey. I have the privilege of serving as chair of WFRC right now, and I am joined by our Vice Chair, Bob Stevenson, and all of our fantastic council members here. We've got our Executive Director, Mr. Gruber, with us. Thanks to everyone who's here, and thanks for your participation. We're going to do introductions. We'll go around the table and who's here in the room, and then we'll have Rosie, if you would read for us, everyone who's online. So let's start down here, Jordan.
Jordan Chandler, WFRC.
Laureen Kamalu, Davis County Commissioner, but representing the Utah Association of Counties.
Carlton Christensen with the Utah Transit Authority.
Mark Shepard, Clearfield City Mayor.
Joy Petro, Layton City Mayor.
Gage Froer, Weber County Commission.
Brandon Stanger, Clinton Mayor.
Rosie Hernandez, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
I'm Andrew Gruber with WFRC.
Bob Stevenson, Davis County.
Jeff Silverstream, Mill Creek Mayor.
Jenny Wilson, Salt Lake County Mayor.
Carlos Braceras, UDOT.
Amy Winder Newton, Salt Lake County Council.
Tammy Chan, Kaysville City Mayor.
Rob Daly, Holiday Mayor.
Ted Knowlton, WFRC staff.
Dan Dugan, Salt Lake City Council. Ben Wood, City Weekly.
Tim Watkins, WFRC staff.
Jory Johnner, WFRC staff, Long Range Planning Group.
Ben Hewitt with UDOT.
Marsha White, WFRC.
Miranda Jones-Cox, WFRC Government Affairs.
Marion Florence, WFRC Finance.
Kip Billings, WFRC.
Christy Dahlberg, WFRC staff.
Meg Townsend, WFRC staff.
Ben Withridge, WFRC staff.
Andrew Katsa-Harakis, public comment for the Rio Grande Plan.
Bert Granberg with the WFRC Analytics Group.
Wayne Benyon, WFRC staff.
Matt Ryan, WFRC staff.
Byron Head, WFRC staff.
Madison Aviles, WFRC staff.
Jay Mosqueda, WFRC staff.
Lauren Victor, WFRC staff.
Dallin Barman, WFRC intern.
Great, thank you. Rosie, could you just run down the list of everyone joining us online?
Yes, online we have Aria Bruning, Lee Perry, Lauren Palmer, Mayor Christy Overson, Mike Wykers, Monica Zoltansky, Robert Dandoy, Ryan Beck, Sharon Bolos, and we have a few others that are joining on as attendees.
Nope,
Mayor Dave Mon just joined.
Oh, and Mayor Nadolski.
Mayor Nadolski as well.
Great, thank you. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here with us. Okay, our first item is an action item. The minutes from our March 28, 2024 meeting and financial statements check registers for February and March of this year, and our budget expenditure report to date. Those have been sent out in draft form for review, and I am going to ask if there's any amendments to be made to those, and if not, is there a motion to approve those?
I move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Motion by Mayor Shepard. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, any discussion to any of those? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those are approved. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion to amend the order of our agenda. It's a slight amendment, but we'd like to move the Budget Committee reports and public hearing first, to the first of the meeting. So can I get a motion to amend the agenda to move the Budget Committee meeting, which I believe was item 6, to the start of the meeting, and then we'll proceed with everything else as ordered originally. Is there a motion to do that?
Jeff Silverstream, so moved.
Thank you.
Second,
Thank
Maureen
you.
Kamalu.
We have a motion and a second. Any concerns over that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes and we are amended. And we're going to turn to Councilmember Amy Winder-Newton to present on the Budget Committee.
Thank you very much. So our budget committee met earlier this month and is bringing 2 action items and 1 informational item to the council. So first of all, we need to do a public hearing and take action to approve the fiscal year 25 WFRC goals, budget, and unified planning work program. In your packets is the draft of these things, and they outline the activities that WFRC plans to undertake in fiscal year 2025. These materials were prepared by staff in coordination with the budget committee, and our budget committee is recommending that the council approve these items. We also want to note that these materials were presented to this council at our meeting in March, and we authorized their release for public review and comment. So we'll ask Andrew to briefly summarize the fiscal year 25 goals, and then ask our CFO, Marion Florence, to summarize any changes to the budget and work program since March.
Thank you very much, Madam Budget Chair. As Councilmember Winder-Newton noted, we are bringing back to you, as part of our regular annual process, our FY25 budget, goals, and unified planning work program. So if this seems familiar to you, it is because we talked about this at the March meeting. We presented in some detail on these items. You voted to release these items for review by the public, and they were sent to all of the councils of government in the region. And now we are bringing them back to you for final action. So it's our intention to be relatively succinct in our description, because this is the second time you're hearing this. But as always, if any of you have any comments or questions, we are very happy to answer them here in this meeting or at any other point. Having said that, I will just do a brief reminder about the goals. These were in your meeting materials. They're also on the screen here. I want to start with a reminder about our mission statement. This has not changed, but the Wasatch Front Regional Council builds consensus and enhances quality of life by developing and implementing visions and plans for a well-functioning multimodal transportation system, livable communities, a strong economy, and a healthy environment. That's the mission statement that this council adopted several years ago. And we, for the year, have 4 goals, and I'm just going to read them. Number 1, collaboratively advance the Wasatch Choice vision as a framework for integrating transportation, land use, and economic development to address growth-related opportunities and challenges and maintain and enhance quality of life. That's a long sentence, and there's a lot of important stuff in that sentence. Part 2, our goal number 2, is to effectively administer ongoing plans and programs. In this meeting, there's going to be a lot of that work. We have on the agenda an amendment to the Regional Transportation Plan. We have on the agenda updates with from our funding programs to the Transportation Improvement Program and other things. So we'll be carrying forward some of those items. Goal number 3, provide subject matter expertise to federal, state, and local officials and policymakers. This is our engagement in state level and federal level lawmaking and policymaking, and providing data and analysis to you and to our partners as well, among other things. And then finally, goal number 4, strive for organizational excellence. And given, Madam Budget Chair, that this is part of the Budget Committee report, I'll just highlight how important it is for us to ensure accountability, transparency, and communication to all of our members and stakeholders, and use our resources prudently and efficiently. That's the approach we take with the use of the public dollars that we're charged with putting to good use. So that's a summary of the goals. Of course, I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Okay, and if there's no, oh, Carlton has one.
Andrew, if you can accomplish number 1, then all my problems are solved. So
solving your problems is one of our sub goals.
Okay, thank you.
It's in the fine print.
And then Councilmember Winder-Newton, then if it's okay, we can turn it to Marion to give a few reminders about the budget as well.
Thanks. Okay, and as we have noted, this is the final step in our budget process for this year for FY25. We started this process back in March, brought an initial draft of the budget to the Budget Committee and to this council. It has been released, as we said, to public comment, both through our newsletter, on the website, and out specifically to all of the COGs for comments, any questions. We didn't get anything substantial from that process, although we did get some wonderful thank you notes and that kind of thing, so we know it did go out and was read, which is nice. And so the version we are bringing back to you today is unchanged except for two modest and positive changes. So we have one small change to the UPWP, our Unified Work Planning Program, and one small change to our budget. In the UPWP, UTA, our partner UTA, has received a federal grant to conduct an analysis of market, housing, and economic impacts associated with potential future transit-oriented development in the Front Runner Corridor. So this project has been added to our work program. And that, of course, is part of our work program, not part of our budget, but it needs to be reflected there. So that is one of our changes. The other change is to our WFRC budget because we have added a grant from the state of Utah, the Department of Land Use, actually the Land Use Training Fund. Tim Watkins in our CED group is leading a new project to create visualization tools to illustrate a variety of mixed-use center options and metrics to reflect their cross-issue growth impacts and benefits. I did not write that sentence, but I do know how it impacts the budget. We were awarded a grant of $140,000 for this project, which also is combined with outreach that will be this summer, October, and then conclude next February. So because we're starting now, we have $40,000 in our current budget that we are anticipating spending, and another $100,000, which has been added into our FY25 budget. So that is the sole change to our next year budget, is $100,000, which has been added to our consulting line and to our state revenue. So we're really excited about that new grant and the fact that we've already gotten started on that project. And I know you'll be hearing more about it.
Marion, brief interjection. That was quite a mouthful.
Wasn't it?
Description of
Thank you,
but
Tim.
I just want to focus on visualization of potential development. Those of you that work with your constituents and the public, we know that there is sometimes concern about change and about growth and development. We understand this. And one of the reasons often that there is concern is because people don't understand or can't visualize. This is not a critique of the public. This is a reality that if you don't see images, it is hard to understand what the possibilities are. And so part of the idea with this is to create these visualizations of what development could be to help the public have a better understanding of what potential development plans are. Housing, parks, shopping, et cetera. So it's another tool for you all to use as you're evaluating development scenarios and then communicating with your public.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage questions on the project to come to our staff and questions on the budget to come to me at any time. Happy to answer any questions. We pride ourselves on transparency and thoroughness and want to make sure that you know that we're available for that. And that concludes my piece of the report.
Thank you very much. And before we move forward with approving this, we need to open the public hearing to discuss the goals, budget, and unified planning work program. So I'll make a motion to that effect.
Thank you. I have a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Silverstream, I'll second.
And a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we are now going to open the public hearing specifically to these items, WFRC's goals, budget, and unified planning work program, as has been presented. If there's anyone here in the public that would like to speak to this item, we will have our regular public comment period a little bit later in the meeting. If you have anything you'd like to share with the council to this, the time is now yours. We'd invite you to come up to the microphone and give us your thoughts. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone.
Excuse me, can we just make sure, Rosie, is there anybody online from the public that wants to comment? No one online. Okay.
Okay. Okay, Mayor.
The public hearing.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Thank you for that. And then let me see where I'm at. We're not taking a vote till the very end of all of it. I'm turning it back to
Actually,
you,
we can
right?
take a vote now unless people have other further questions. So if not, I'll make a motion that the council approve the fiscal year 25 goals, budget, and unified planning work program as proposed.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. A motion and a second. Any additional discussion to this? We have spent a great deal of time over the last few months talking about this and appreciate the work of the budget committee and all of the staff working so hard on this. All right, seeing none, all in favor of approving this, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone opposed? All right, that passes. We'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. Andrew, did you want to talk any more about the federal grant applications process?
Thank you very much. Just a brief highlight, and we're tying this in with the budget presentation, even though this does not yet impact the budget. We hope it will impact the budget. There are 3 federal grant programs that we are anticipating applying for. We've spoken about this with the budget committee, and I'm just going to highlight them for you briefly in no particular order. The first one is for the Safe Streets and Roads for All. You remember, and we'll have a little more discussion about this later in the meeting, that we received a planning grant of about $1 million from the U.S. Department of Transportation to develop a comprehensive safety action plan for roadway users in Utah, or in our region. This is also happening around the state. And there is more funding available for doing additional planning work. And so we are intending to apply to do more safety action planning, to do detailed pre-engineering safety assessments on up to 6 corridors, to get more into the details. And we're still evaluating which communities could be and which project and corridors could be good candidates for that. So we're intending to apply for more planning money for that. The second one is the Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program. This is another federal grant, which is about, again, planning, doing pre-engineering, but detailed planning for active transportation in corridors. I should say all of this work would be done with WFRC in close partnership with the cities, the counties, UDOT if it relates to a state facility, UTA if there's transit aspects, but to help communities do up to 4 to 10 active transportation planning projects as part of what we call the Beehive Bikeways. These are the non-state facilities, but the more detailed work for regionally important active transportation trails for commuting purposes within our communities. So that's the second one. The third one is the Transportation Access Pilot Program. This is actually not a grant program. It's a technical analysis. Well, it is building a practice at the national level of using access to opportunities as a goal and a metric in doing transportation planning. That's a supplement to thinking about things like congestion, roadway congestion, transit ridership, safety, thinking about how well our transportation system is serving people in getting from their origin to destination, and the connection of housing, jobs, and the transportation system. We are already doing this using access to opportunities in Utah. There's an interest on expanding this to other parts of the country. And so this is one of these areas that Utah has a great story to tell, that we're a leader in this work. And we are seeking to become part of a national cohort of advancing this type of work. So that's the third one that we're intending to apply for. So just wanted to update you, and we'll keep you posted on that. Happy to answer any questions, of course, if anybody has any comments or concerns about any of those.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, so our second action item for the Budget Committee is to approve the updated WFRC personnel policy. As you know, WFRC regularly reviews its policies to ensure that they reflect current best practices and any updates in state or federal fiscal guidance. So as a result of some updates to applicable guidelines and some post-pandemic changes to processes, the staff thoroughly reviewed the personnel policy and identified some recommended updates. So the proposed updates were reviewed in detail by the Budget Committee and by outside legal counsel, and they basically fall into 2 basic categories. One is edits for clarity and streamlining, and the other is edits to reflect current requirements and evolving best practices. In working with WFRC staff and legal counsel, we made sure that the policy reflects current IRS guidelines, Utah Administrative Code, and best practice. For instance, the definition of full-time and part-time employees was clarified, and the discipline processes were updated. We also made some adjustments that are specific to WFRC and reflect the evolving workplace and commitment to our great staff, including updates to policies around leave liabilities and payroll dates. Information about all the changes were included in your meeting materials, including a memo explaining the changes and a full clean copy of the policy, as well as a red line showing the modifications from current policy. So if anyone has any questions or needs more details, now is a great time to ask that. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and make a motion that the council adopt the amended WFRC personnel policy.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the table. Is there a second? Okay. All right, we'll give that one to Mayor Petro next time, Mayor. Okay, thank you. Any additional discussion to this updated work personnel policy? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and thank you for all the work of the Budget Committee and the staff on this. Yeah, appreciate it.
So we have our last item. This is an informational item. It's the fraud risk assessment for fiscal year 24. WFRC has completed its annual assessment of fraud risk as required by the Office of the Utah State Auditor. And we remain in the optimal category, which is very low risk because of our robust internal controls and separation of duties, trained staff, careful policies, and transparent structure and processes. And of course, the great board that we have here, I'm sure too, so, and staff. This assessment and accompanying memo are available in your packets for review prior to the required submission to the Utah State Auditor. So just wanted to let you know about that. Thanks.
Thank
you. We
you.
have great staff, so we're lucky there.
We really are.
And a great board, so we're lucky there.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Thanks so much. Okay, next item, we have our chair's report, and we have a key item we want to discuss today, and a couple of you were part of Regional Growth Committee last week, but today we want to have a discussion, not brief, a kind of robust, open discussion about the Olympics. We want to talk about the Olympics. We anticipate that July 24th will be a very exciting day for us here in Utah for extra reasons, including the announcement that we will officially receive the 2034 games. We're excited about that. I know that the data shows a lot of Utahns, a strong majority of Utahns are pretty excited about that. And I don't know if any of you had a chance to be part of volunteering or participate in the Olympics in 2002. We were all a little bit younger then. Right. Yeah. 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 We're all 20 years younger than we are now, 22 years, but one of the greatest experiences of my life was having the chance to volunteer with the Olympics. And I had, I think, the best volunteer gig in the games, and it just was something I will always treasure. So I personally am very excited for the games to come back. We're honored that Utah and Salt Lake City, Utah games will get to come back, and we anticipate that announcement. But it also focuses the world's attention on Utah. We know that. So as a state, we don't work to host the Olympics just for the joy of that 2 weeks, right? It's a huge, robust opportunity, but we really focus on the legacy that it provides after and the benefit that it is to the state and to the residents who live here. In everything that we do in transportation, we're very fortunate to have most of the needed system already in place. I think that's why that's one of many reasons why we're so highly regarded as a future Olympic host again. But there are enhancements to the system that are already happening and plans that are in place that will enhance the system. That will be great for the Olympics, but they're not being done for the Olympics. It's because it's what we need as a state, and it will be really great for the state of Utah and the residents who live here going forward. So we're talked about that the Olympics is a really powerful tool to focus our collective minds on what type of place we want Utah to be in 2034 and beyond. We had this discussion at the Unified Economic Opportunity Commission. We want to have it here at Wasatch Front Regional Council in terms of transportation and our communities across the Wasatch Front more broadly. So a couple of notes. The 2002 Olympics left a very strong transportation legacy. If you've been around for a while, then you are familiar with that. I-15 improvements, the tracks, blue and red line, they were funded and expedited, and trails. And last week at the Regional Growth Committee meeting, there was a robust discussion on the topic of how we might leverage the 2034 Games opportunity to benefit Utah's future. I'm going to turn to Ted Knowlton to give us a few highlights. There was a really great discussion that happened amongst our Regional Growth Committee, and I'd like Ted to just highlight some of what they talked about as they had this same conversation.
Thanks so much, Mayor Ramsey. Before I turn to some of the 5 key points that the Regional Growth Committee discussed, I just want to highlight a map that we have just created, which I think helps us see the readiness of our region, but also see the changes that have happened over time and prospectively that we're working on together to be ready with our transportation infrastructure. What you're looking at right now, these are the proposed venues for the Olympics. Downhill at Snow Basin, many events in and around downtown, skating oval in Kearns, Maverick Center, hockey, and the like. And what I'd like to do is highlight, let me show you what the Mayor Ramsey just said, which is, this is what we executed shortly, but whoops, whoa. And we're back. Everybody okay? Everybody all right? Okay. And are you a pilot for Singapore? Never. Nicely done. So there's the blue line, blue on these maps, transit, red, roads. And we expedited a really significant I-15 set of improvements shortly before 2002. Boy, we ramped up. Now, one of my colleagues noted, it's like we never ramped down after that. As the build up to 2002, we've kept our foot on the gas pedal, so to speak. And these are the things, I swear I'm not doing that. It's trigger happy. Oh my goodness. Anyway, you see things like the Bangerter Highway improvements and the Green Line and the creation of Front Runner, all since the 2002 Olympics. We are so much more ready today than we were in 2002, on up into Weber and Davis County as well, Legacy Highway, Highway 89, OGX. Now, you add to that what is anticipated to be ready by 2034, and let me isolate that just so you can get a sense of that. I'll turn off these two. These are just the things that are not yet in place that we anticipate having ready by 2034, and they include the Mountain View Corridor, many of the Mountain View Corridor improvements, strategic double tracking on Front Runner, the Orange Line, which you may not be super familiar with, that provides a lot of transit improvement in and around downtown. And you can get a sense of it. We are keeping our foot on the gas pedal. I just wanted to highlight that. You can add this map and look at it yourself by hitting the plus sign when you go to the wasatchchoice.org map. But as the mayor mentioned, our conversation is not just about the venues, it's about the rest of the region. Let's pull this up, and I want to just quickly go through 5 key items that Regional Growth Committee looked at. We looked at and thought explicitly not just about the small set of venue communities, we did think about them, but also about the rest of the communities in our region. We all know the Olympics doesn't just shine a light on Salt Lake City, it shines a light on the state of Utah. Go to the next slide. So we focused on the question of what is the catalyst that we can use of the Olympic Games to focus on longer term changes that we can enjoy in 2035 and beyond that the Mayor Ramsey mentioned. Will you go to the next slide? We were joined by Colin Hilton. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation. One of the key things that he said, which is quite obvious but important, is that nothing motivates like an Olympic deadline. And boy, didn't we see that in 2002. We will see that again. That is an opportunity. We can use that to leverage some things that perhaps are important to us, and we want to create and build that momentum using 2034. Go to the next slide. Here are 5 things that we talked about at Regional Growth Committee that are in the spirit of that statement. One, perhaps this is a time for us to leverage the statewide trail network. The development of a statewide trail network can gain additional momentum through alignment with the Olympics, not unlike the way transit did in 2002. And I just want to highlight, we know in our conversations with the Olympic bid preparers that the IOC was very interested in the quality of our active transportation network. This fits well with the Olympics movement, has a nice tie-in, even though it is the winter. Let's go to the next one. The biggest spotlight will be on downtown Salt Lake City. We should work to collectively to strengthen downtown as the focal point of the Olympics. A downtown Salt Lake City that is a strong center for sports, entertainment, and culture is a key to help us shine on the international stage. That is a collaborative effort. We know that's been in the news quite a bit lately. Let's go to the next one. The third of 5. Downtown Salt Lake City is not our only city and town center. We have city and town centers across our region. Almost every community, I think, has a city and town center that they're working to enhance, like Fairborn Station, Holiday Village, Mill Creek City Center, many more. Can we amplify these as natural locations to extend the celebration of the Olympics? Let's go to the fourth point. As we're thinking about that, we talked explicitly about, can we use infrastructure strategically to enliven centers? These images are before and after of a community in California. And I'll just show you on the right, that median in the middle can flex. It can become a plaza for celebration. And then when there's not an event, it absorbs downtown parking demand. And then in the meantime, when there's not an event, it creates an environment where more people are willing to live near a street like that, which helps ease housing challenges, which are present in California as well as in Utah. 5, and this one, I think we just didn't put a fine point on it. We left it perhaps more as a space for ongoing discussion. Shall we explore broader objectives to advance by tying them to the Olympics and the deadline of the Olympics? As examples include air quality, environmental sustainability, perhaps traditional economic development in parts of our region. What about housing affordability? Is there a way that we should leverage the Olympics to do even more for housing affordability? Those are the 5 things that I think were kind of a cross-section of some of the key things that we talked about at the Regional Growth Committee. And I'll pull them back up so you see all 5. And Mayor Ramsey, I'll hand it back to you. Hopefully that gives you a sense of what Regional Growth Committee discussed.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that, and appreciate the members of Regional Growth Committee for digging into this and having a conversation. We are always grateful for the work that everyone on that committee does and the recommendations that they bring forward to our council. Thanks, Ted. I'm going to turn to Executive Director Carlos Braceras from UDOT to give us some thoughts. This has a lot to do with what you do, and then the same thing, we'll follow that up. I'll turn to Carlton Christensen with UTA and get some input from you if that's okay. So please, Director Braceras.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is, it's bringing back new memories. I was part of the planning and for the 2002 Olympics and visited a lot of, I think, 3 different Olympic locations prior to this Olympics. And we set as a goal when we were laying out the transportation plans that transportation would not be noticed, that it would not be part of the story. And in fact, in a follow-up, that old magazine that doesn't exist anymore, Newsweek magazine, after the games mentioned that just transportation in Utah just worked. And so, I think we should strive for that as a goal. Transportation, the only time transportation is noticed is when it's not working, right? And so I would say that, there's probably 6 projects we're working on right now that are important from the infrastructure, the capital development perspective. They're all projects that are part of, the long-range plan. We don't build things for the Olympics. Transportation for the Olympics is an operations. It's an operational event. It's you live with what you have and you figure out how you operate it. And I'll talk about that in just a second. The 6 projects that we feel are key to have done before the Olympics, obviously front runner, and maybe Carlton will probably mention that as part of a spine for transportation. The reconstruction of I-15 from Farmington down into Salt Lake City. That's a small $2 billion project that we're going to want to, we have money to start that in 2026. We're going to want to have that completed. We just brought more money to the interchange of 89 and 84. And we're going to do that in 2 phases, but that's a critical piece. If you remember how we operated all the events in Snow Basin, we had the park and ride lot there at the base of the canyon, and we bussed everyone up 84 and into Snow Basin. Nope.
That's the famous time that Met used
the
the
very
HE double hockey sticks.
Yeah, I was in the helicopter there. We had traffic engineers and helicopters above every event, and I saw Senator Romney waving his arms, and we all had radios, and yes, it was I didn't know too many people knew of that.
Well, now they're much disputed. What did he really say?
It was on the very front end of the event, of the Olympics, and we were all anxious. When you think about the timing, we laid out, every event, you time the inload and the outloads. And, everything is based on how long it takes to move those people in and out. And then 9/11 happened. And we needed to move some of those security stations farther away. And it changed how long, especially if you think about the Olympic Park. We needed to ask people we called it the Miracle Mile. And if you did the walk up to the Olympic events up there, the bobsled, the jumps, and luge, you got a little pin, for walking the Miracle Mile at that time because we had to push security so far out. In fact, I had to get secret level clearance. My mother, who lives in Massachusetts, called me up and said, "What did you do?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, the FBI is talking to the neighbors about you." Everyone in the country was on edge right after 9/11. But the US 89, I-84 interchange will be a critical project. We're working on 3 environmental documents where the projects are not yet funded that I believe will be critical because they really serve as the gateway into 3 venues. One is the Heber bypass in Heber, which there's no controversy around. The other is the reconstruction of the Kimball's interchange. So that's the intersection of 224 into Park City and I-80. There's going to be more events in that, we have the Olympic Park, but there's going to be more events than we had before in that Park City area. So there's going to be a lot more in and out of traffic going through that section. So that's going to be one of the critical pinch points for the Olympics. And the other one is we're doing the environmental on the reconstruction of the access up to the Snow Basin off of 84 in Morgan. And if you can picture that location, we kind of have a split interchange right now. So if you're coming from the east, you're getting off at the Morgan interchange and traveling the frontage roads. And if you're coming from the west, you're getting off at a half interchange west of the road that goes up to Snow Basin. We're looking at locating the interchange. Really, it'll be a half interchange because we have the river and the railroad tracks on one side to go up to Snow Basin. So those are 3 projects that we're working on the environmental and need to be figure out a way to fund prior to the Olympics. 10 years, a lot will happen between now and then. When we think about the transportation plans and operations, we break it down into, really it's going to be, this is all the work, really, the organization, the planning for this is going to be done by the organizing committee. So they're going to establish their own set of professionals. They'll have consultants working there in their hub. They were downtown Salt Lake City last time. We'll embed some people. UTA will embed some people in with the organizing committee. And that's really where all the planning will take place for the Olympics. And they will be the ones doing the reach out to all the communities in terms of how we need to work with that. We will think of a transportation plan for the athletes and the officials, a transportation plan for the media, because you want them to have a extra special experience, a transportation plan for the people attending the events, And then really what will fall to really UTA and UDOT is a transportation plan for everyone else. The people that are still going to go about their day-to-day business, which is going to be the majority of people, and still want to be able to go to work, get food, and live their lives that are not going to participate in the Olympics. We had a massive, what was very successful last time was, and it was really the first time we did it, was a TDM program, Travel Demand Management Program. And it was one of those lessons learned that came out of the Olympics that we've continued to work on. And so we visited with every significant company with employees over 100 people. And we would talk to them about, maybe seeing if they could find ways to do, and it was radical at the time, telework and not go into the office. And we worked with freight shipping providers. So think of all the trucks that need to go downtown Salt Lake City to deliver for the restaurants and the hotels and everything that goes on downtown. So we worked with them to arrange that they do those deliveries, between midnight and 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And so those working through all the freight deliveries was part of what we worked on. And that was a big part of the role that the department had in helping set that up. So TDM was a big part of it. Now, it worked so well that I remember halfway through the games, I got a call from then Mayor Rocky Anderson telling me to stop scaring people away from downtown because they had empty parking spots downtown. I was like, Mayor, we're going to continue to do with the plan that we all agreed to ahead of the Olympics. And the other piece that I would say was a lesson learned that we still continue today and see great benefits from is incident management. We didn't really have an active incident management program. So those are those UDOT trucks that will go out there and help people change tires, set up traffic control for law enforcement. And the idea is the faster you can get a car moving, pulled off the road, we can tow cars off the road. We have tow hitches on the back of all those trucks. You save on congestion and you save on secondary crashes. We were very lucky to have Washington State DOT, Illinois DOT, and Tennessee DOT send us their incident management trucks. And we learned a lot from that. And today we have 26 of them around the state that are an active part of first responding to any crash in the state. So we're excited for this. We're ready for this as a state of Utah. I don't think, when I spent some time with the International Olympic Committee, they said, relax, you guys are ready. So I think it's going to be fun.
Mayor Ramsey, Senator Harper is raising his hand.
Senator Harper, thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're most welcome. Have to dance around a couple grandkids' graduations today, but this worked out just fine. I really appreciate what Ted and Carlos have brought up. Utah truly is prepared for the Olympics. It's a great thing for Utah to have it back. I remember working with then Director Tom Warren about getting funding and getting things ready for the Olympics back then. Mr. Braceras was a much younger engineer at that time, but look at how he's shown over the years. We're appreciative of him. I just want to reiterate the fact that Utah, unlike some other places, has maintained its Olympic venues. There's more that needs to be done to get those polished up, but we're in great shape there. The legislature has continued to participate and provide funding for that. I'm very happy with the fact that since the Olympics, not only have we invested and really done a great job with our roads, but our transit system is much better. And as highlighted before, the active transportation is going to be bailed out and it's going to be much better. So with the partnership that we have with everybody around the table and all our stakeholders, we should be in great shape. And we'll do some temporary things, parking up, whatever, but I really think we need to look at how are we going to get people up and down the canyons into the venues, and I'm hoping that transit will be an integral part of that. But those are my comments, Mayor Ramsey.
Thank you. We appreciate you and your perspective from the legislature, and thank you for your partnership with this. Good luck. Congratulations on your graduations.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to turn now, speaking of transit, turn to Carlton Christensen, Board Chair of UTA, for transit thoughts. Tell us how UTA is feeling about this.
Well, first of all, we're excited. And such to fact that we wrapped some light rail vehicles when the IOC was here, and you'll see those actually throughout the system, and certainly through July, and we're excited to be able to do that thoughtfully. And the leaders of UTA at the time put together a couple-inch document that documented lessons learned, if you will. And so we're not starting from scratch. We learned a lot in that experience. We've been working actually with Los Angeles a little bit on their upcoming Olympics, and they with us, and we're hoping that's reciprocal. And in transit, you are relying on other agencies, similar to what Carlos mentioned of drawing on some of the other DOTs. It's not uncommon for us to look for drivers and vehicles, and it's just, and providing the normal level of service. Carlos made a really interesting point, and I remember when I went to I just had gotten elected in 1997 and went to the 98 Winter Games in Nagano. And I had 3 ticketed venues that I attended, and all of them I was late to. And even though I had special media passes, when you have the Emperor of Japan coming down a mountain road and they hold your bus, you get to the downhill and they, just in time for them to say they're taking a 2-hour break. And so you're like, oh crap. And then even the last closing ceremonies, we didn't get there till halfway through because the train broke down. And we were in the neighboring town, which was a sister city to to Salt Lake, called Matsumoto. And a lot of people were staying there anyway, but we were late. And so those kinds of things, obviously affected. And so when we got back, transportation, because if people aren't connecting, then that ultimately becomes their experience. Without question, and it's been said, we have a much more robust transit system than we did there. We've in the process of updating our fleet, and we've made some really good progress over the last few years. But we are hopeful on a couple systems. We've commenced construction on MVX, or the Mid-Valley, which will connect our Murray Central Station into West Valley City, and subsequently into the venue there at the Maverick Center. But also there's opportunities in South Davis. We also know that we're hopeful on the extension of Front Runner eventually down to the southern end of Utah County. But the strategic double tracking that the legislature and through UDOT is currently in the environmental stage, but soon to be hopefully in the construction stage, and completed, would move our service at peak time from a 30-minute service to 15-minute service. And really, if you think about the growth of our region since 2002, which I-15 had just barely, in Salt Lake County, had just barely been finished. And I remember thinking, oh man, there's so much room left on this freeway. I don't think anybody who drives it at any time during the day would have that sentiment. So how do you manage that kind of growth? And we've learned over the last few years to the question of demand management that some of us can work remotely, and we've gotten a lot more proficient at it. I will just throw out there that we, one of the things as communities, and I remember as we visited with prior Olympic cities, one of the takeaways that people gave us is you need to be prepared financially. And you don't think about it, but you go a month or almost a couple months with almost no conventions because they're setting up facilities and hotels are emptied. And, as a city, we actually ran a deficit in 2002, and it was for us, it was about $10 million, which wasn't unbearable, but unfortunately we had a good reserve fund, but it's sort of the side effect, and that's not uncommon of all its, you kind of have this emptiness for a while leading up to the games, and then it takes a week or two, afterwards for things to sort of kick in again. But far worth the cost of it. You just don't go into it blindly that way. And the last thing I'll just say is, as we've last week we met with our federal consultants, and both on the FTA side and certainly on the legislative side. Sometimes there's these great aspirations that if I put the name Olympic in front of it, all of a sudden it's funded. And to Andrew's point earlier, you know, the project has to have merit, has to, you know, have a pathway that has sustainability. And then, and what that ultimately does is it encourages those who are giving discretionary funding to maybe prioritize it, to get it moving. And I'll just use this as an example. I got called up into, I was not a fairly new local elected official, and I got called up to the legislature in the second to the last day of the session. I'm sitting in a room with legislative leadership and Governor Leavitt, and it was whether or not they could pass a resolution that would sort of give a moral commitment, if you will, financially for the building of the Red Line to the university. And in that meeting, legislative leaders were looking for something to assuage their caucuses. And I said, well, we'll commit the sales tax that was supposed to come back from the original Olympic funding to Salt Lake if a ballot measure doesn't pass. And so then as I went off the Hill, I quickly called 3 of my colleagues and said, by the way, we've committed sales tax to do this thing. The thing passed. Unfortunately, the ballot initiative also passed, and I still, you know, kept my office. So anyway, but every time I drive up and see the light rail on 4th South, sometimes it does take a little bit of risk.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, that's brave. That's brave of you. Good for you. You got it done. That's good. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Mayor Nadolski of Ogden is online with us. Mayor, we'd love your thoughts on this. Except we can't hear you.
Now.
There, hey, there you are. Great, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Well, give us your Northern Utah host city perspective, you know, as an area that's going to have a bunch of people coming through it. What are your thoughts?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this. It's been great hearing the big picture plans of the regional plans. And just want to make a plug for Ogden. We were a venue city in 2002 for curling up at the Ice Sheet, which is a shared facility on the campus of Weber State with Weber County. Since that time, we have built out the OGX, our rapid bus transit system, which does connect our downtown up to the Weber State campus. And there is still some potential for the Ice Sheet to be a venue for curling, but in the instance that it's not, we do expect there's still to be additional uses of the facility for various overflow, practice space, things like that, because it is an incredible facility. So a lot of this long-term planning and regional transportation and interconnectedness amongst communities is really important for our current planning and our future planning, but also for the games. We're taking the perspective that we want to look 20 years past the Olympics on a lot of these decisions. So we're very excited about the strategic double tracking of Front Runner. It's important that we as a community are included in the games and that the games don't pass us by through some of the improvements of the 89 and 84 interchange, for example, as well as some of the work that started in the environmental phase that Director Braceros mentioned up at Snow Basin and in Morgan County. So if we can create a downtown environment that becomes an activated space for the events that take place at Snow Basin and potentially at the Ice Sheet, but also the activities that are taking place at the Ice Sheet during the games and become easily accessible and connected through the strategic double tracking. In addition, the new reconstruction that is planned and hopefully hope to be underway beginning in 2026 for the 24th Street interchange rebuild. That pairs nicely with our transit-oriented development that we're doing at the Union Station in collaboration with our development partners at UTA. Our vision is to welcome the world back to Ogden through the grand ballroom or the grand station of the Union Station, which is how our city became established and welcomed the world as the Junction City. So we see tremendous opportunities for big transportation and infrastructure projects that can align really nicely with our longer term vision for our community. Big projects that are obviously going to be hard for a city of our size to pull off by ourselves, which thankfully we're a connected community with partners bigger than ourselves. So a lot of the regional transportation planning and transportation improvement plan projects are already very well aligned with a lot of our local planning and the future that we have in mind through our own vision for Ogden as it relates to the games.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
And we appreciate that. Thank you to Ogden and all of your colleagues up there in Weber County that are going to work together to make sure that your venue area is well taken care of and all the partnerships happening. So thank you.
A big thank you to Weber County. Commissioner Frower's in the room if there's anything he wants to add, but this is not just a city effort. It's a city and county led partnership. So it's been a really good effort together.
Yeah, let me just add that we had the opportunity to meet with the IOC, both at the ice sheet and Snow Basin over the last month. They couldn't be more excited about our Snow Basin venue. In fact, they've talked about the downhill and possibly the Super G. There is some conversation about the ice sheet not being the prime venue for curling, but we've had some pretty good communication that it will be available for practice or, again, a lot can happen in 10 years, and there might be some other sports, but we want, we've made it very clear to the IOC that we're there to participate, we're there to help if we had to add more sheets for whatever it be, practice or et cetera. That Ogden City and Weber County are on the same page in terms of making that a prime venue. And I think it was appropriate, the mayor mentioned the OGX. We mentioned how difficult it is to move people around during the Olympics. That's a prime, we have parking there. It connects hotels, it connects other arteries with I-15, with 89. So we think it's we're at the right spot at the right time. And in 10 years, we think it'll be improved from what it is today.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I was part of the RGC committee where Colin came and spoke. Just wanted to mention 2 quick points for those that weren't there. He talked how important some legacy funding was, that they've been able to take those funds and keep all these venues operational over these last couple decades. And also that they had already got agreements for most every venue out there, even though it hasn't technically been announced, and hopefully it will be announced. But it was just amazing to see how well thought out and how much planning's been going into this already to have contracts signed for something that's not even there yet. And we also brought up to the point, just from a Olympic spirit, trying to maybe have watch parties in some of these other city town centers that aren't going to be part of the actual games, where we can all still feel connected and feel that spirit. And then also brought up the point of having cultural nights to highlight each of the different countries involved in the games, where we could move those throughout some of the different communities, and then other people could come in to join up and celebrate whatever country is that evening. So those were some things that came from that meeting.
I love that. As a non-venue city, I would love the opportunity to host a really cool event. Because if you think about it, there's a lot of folks who live in Utah, who live along the Wasatch Front, who aren't going to get to attend the games. They are going to have to be part of their daily lives, and they're not, that's going to be their Olympic experience. We can create that in other places as well for everyone to have a feel for the Olympics. Go ahead, Councilmember.
Sure. Thank you very much. Dan Diggle, Salt Lake City. I appreciate the comments from Carlos and Christian and Carlton about the transportation and the projects that we got going forward. And I really I appreciate the vision of the orange line going up to the university, to the airport. I think that will transform transportation and traffic going up to into the airport and back. And the double tracking the front runner is so vital for our regional transportation. But when I look at that, I also look at and go, wow, we're going to double track front runner, and that's going to bring a lot of rail traffic going through the city. we have the possibility of the Olympics. And I'll kind of echo Mayor Nadolski's point about looking beyond the Olympics, and then look at the traffic of maybe Amtrak, and look at UP coming through the areas. If we have these inland ports that if they come to fruition, or even if they just come to maybe 25% growth, the additional rail traffic that we'd be going through Salt Lake City and through the whole Wasatch Front area. And I think we could see additional traffic problems because of this all along the surface. And so right now that Salt Lake City was granted funding for an east-west connection through the area, we have the funding now, and I think we need to do that study, because this rail traffic could really impact not only 2034, but 2040 and beyond. And it could actually build another wall between the east and the west. And I really think we need to do a focus on that quickly at this point, because it could also impact our transportation needs and our transportation during the Olympic timeframe. So there's grant money out there. It's a few $1 million, and there's no time but now to start that study so that we can look at the future and go, wow, we need to do something about this rail traffic, because it's closing down our streets east, west, and it's not going to get any better. So thank you very much.
Good point. Thank you. I'm going to turn to Salt Lake County Mayor Jenny Wilson. Give us your thoughts on where things are at.
Well, thanks. I was lucky enough to be on staff for 2 years prior, and then stayed around for 6 months to close out. So I remember that time of my life quite fondly, and was exposed to so many different work groups and lines throughout that experience. And that's come to help me in my current position. And it was a great, exciting thing to do. I'll tell you, when we first started to talk about whether or not we would bid, of course I wanted to, but I had a little bit of reluctance to join in 100%. And it's because of the earlier point made about how we never took our foot off the gas pedal. And so as exciting as this is, and I am over the moon, and I was happy to be part of the bid committee, and we already signed our Salt Palace contract and all sorts of things, I do think it's absolutely important, to the council members' point and another couple of points made, that we really stay on top of issue mitigation. And we've already studied, we asked the Gardner Policy Institute to look at what benefits we'll have from the economic impact. We need to also go and say, what are our risks? And we need to all be really intentional about that. And I think when I look at the growth and development in my county, I love the trajectory we're on. I love the diversified economy. I love that our Salt Palace bounced back faster than almost anywhere else, if not faster than anywhere else. That our economy was strong. We took a hit a little during COVID, but then we all rebounded, our Wasatch Front counties. But that could be at risk if we get too much attention. So as much as I'm celebrating and will continue to, I think it's incumbent upon us, the future committee, the current bid committee as they close out. And I want to compliment them. The bid committee, Darren Hughes, my former direct colleague, actually, Fraser Bullock, they all did an amazing job with fairly limited resources, relying on the Athletic Foundation and Colin Hilton and others. And it is, as has been pointed out, we already have schedules and plans. A couple of issues that are up in the air, clearly maybe new games to be added, and then of course the renovation. But we do know that we will have a surplus, that we do know that the Athletic Foundation and our current investments, that viability over dozens and dozens of years is key. There's a very good chance the model's changing and we'll be back at it again. And perhaps what I thought was a once in a lifetime opportunity could be a 3-time opportunity if I live a long life, who knows? And you too, right? And I'll tell you, there's nothing cooler than what we're doing as people who work in this space to do a repeat. But I guess I have a little bit of we got very lucky with our weather. Yeah. Our air quality was very good. We had, thank you, good infrastructure around to where we could have senior leaders address the 9/11 risk to the games. And we did, we changed things, and we were able to pivot on our transportation systems, our setup. But let's not get so excited that we're not asking the hard questions. I am personally excited about the number 5 that was outlined earlier, that we could look at air quality mitigation. The surplus, even with contingencies built in, is planned to be high. And I want to make sure we are continuing to invest in future athletes. But again, if we're going to do it again, what are our community priorities? What would we do differently? Especially because we don't have to rush now. We have 10 years, not 6. And let's be intentional. I also think that one of the things that I'm hopeful the future committee does is indeed connect more with these watch parties that have been mentioned. We had some limitations to doing that last time, but we're now a more hospitality focused community. And the idea that we should have one in everyone's city, whether it's small or large. There's no reason not to. We probably have to negotiate sponsorships and get that done early so we can make that happen. But if you're coming in as a visitor, let alone a resident, you can't be everywhere at once. You're going to be watching a lot of the Olympics on TV. And why would you want to be alone in your hotel room like Charles Barkley during the games, right? And think it's no fun. You want to be out and you want to experience the NBA All-Star Game as the Olympic Games in all of our communities. And so do our residents, as was pointed out. So those are the things we have to really ask the committee to do. And then a couple of other things. I think we were sideboarding, Carlos and I, and he educated me, like Kearns, like, oh my goodness, I'm worried about Kearns. That venue holds fewer people, but we have to take into account appropriate investment as it relates to the real issue. But good infrastructure for load in and load out. And I do think there is some impact, and there was Carlton years ago. I think we're going to be better off financially, but I do, from the city and county's perspective, but I do think that being aware of how our economies will have a little bit of a down before and after is really key. And as one of the leads for the volunteer program, I believe we're going to turn out again as volunteers. I really pushed to last time to have volunteers be able to be seated in empty seats. And those early phase competitions, the sponsors will have, hundreds of tickets. And a lot of time people don't fill them. And there were some barriers. We need to overcome those barriers and make sure not only does our Olympic Games, like everything else I've mentioned and you all have mentioned, but we should have our seats full. And why would we not create a line? And we now have technology to do that. So if nothing else, because I'm not going to be a mayor in 10 years, I'm going to make sure those seats are filled by volunteers. That's my message. They're going to be so annoyed with me on that committee by the time. Anyway, but I am excited, but we need to make sure that the year or two after that gas pedal doesn't continue to accelerate, or, look at the growth we're managing now. It's our job here with this body to be aware of that. And I think that's something we should probably ask for, is that type of study, in my opinion. So, but thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your perspective. It's fun to hear from people working on it now who got to work on it before in a different way. And before I turn to Salt Lake City Mayor and Aaron Mendenhall, thanks for being here. And before I turn to you, Carlos mentioned there will have to be a plan for all of these different groups, a transportation plan, how to move people around. And then Mayor Wilson talked about getting volunteers in seats. I was in my 20s, a young mom, signed up to volunteer and was assigned to the hospitality company for the Olympics. And I drove U.S. Olympic Committee members. What is that? I'm like, now that I think back, I'm like, that was brave of them to go, okay, great. Well, we want you to come and host our U.S. Olympic Committee members. They didn't know me, and drive them all over to all the venues. And I had a special uniform, Olympic uniform, and I got to attend an awful lot of events.
And of course, we placed you in the right. Well, we were recruiting and placing volunteers. It was my team. Of course, we put you in hospitality.
Well, at the time, nobody even knew that I liked that kind of thing. I was a random volunteer that signed up, and it was the most perfect thing for me to get to do. I loved it. And as someone who lived in Utah my whole life up to that point and up to this point, I could answer all their questions about whatever, and it was fun. I was one of those volunteers that got to sit in the seats and got to see some of the amazing things I wouldn't have had the chance any other way. So yeah, thank you for that. Okay, Mayor, this is a huge deal for you and your team. So we'd love your thoughts from Salt Lake City.
I apologize that I came in late and I didn't get the instructions on what we're about to say exactly. So I'm going to take a stab in the dark after listening to some of you. But I will share with you, I just had a really cool experience with Zions Bank and the summit that they're hosting at Grand America, and heard our former President Bush speak. And I thought, gosh, if I would have heard this guy speak 20 years ago, I probably would have liked him a lot more when he was the president. It was a delight, and he was very charming and smart and funny. Anyway, so I apologize that I'm late. It was a neat experience for a Blue Dot mayor to like that guy so much. The IOC's interest in Salt Lake City, Utah games has been well-founded in our venues, and there's a lot of talk, justifiably so, about how strong our venues are and that we've kept them up and that they've become part of the culture of so many of our communities 365 days a year. But in the visit that a lot of us had a chance to take part in, we heard two big things from them on top of the venues, which were still really comforting and exciting to them to see how strong they are. One is our people. You know, our 82% approval rating and the strength of that, those of us working on the 2034 games know that we can't take that for granted. And at the community level, we still have to work to keep people feeling invested in the games, opportunistic in the games, and how are we going to get more of what we need anyway, and come together around those big steps. Carlton, I think you could have survived a sales tax commitment even if it had, the ballot measure hadn't gone through, because we had strong leaders like yourself in that seat. But there may be some other big decisions that we get to make. The second part, besides, in addition to our people, is a challenge that they gave us. And they gave it to us repeatedly, and they gave it more and more the closer we got toward the end of the visit. And that is, you need to innovate. They said to us in different ways, don't do 2002. Take us into 2034. Take us into a new games. And so while at once it's our institutional knowledge and the literal institutions, the built ones, and the systems that we built that make us such a reliable host for the world, they want us to do something new. I don't mean new facilities, but I do mean the kind of innovation, the ideas you're talking about, Mayor, where communities are saying, some of us had that experience. I was a newlywed living in the Avenues for the 2002 games, student at the University of Utah. I loved walking downtown and feeling the excitement. I had no money. I didn't have tickets. Any games I went to, curling and bobsledding, were hand me down. Someone can't go, give them away, and such memorable experiences. So I agree with Mayor Wilson that we definitely have the passion. We need to make sure that we fill all of those seats. But I wanted to talk about a little bit about what Mayor Nadolski mentioned, doing much of this work anyway. What a gift it is that we're the fastest growing state in the nation. What a gift that we've had the strongest economy for, 17 years running now. What an incredible gift from a lot of hard work that we had the biggest recovery of a downtown in the country for 6 or 8 months coming out of the pandemic. These strengths mean that we should be growing in intentional and strategic ways anyway. Our downtown residential population is doubling right now from 2020 to early next year. We'll go from just under 5,000 downtown residents to 10,000 people. This isn't because of the Olympics, but it will impact it. And so those things that Salt Lake City is going to do and wants to do, including what Councilmember Dugan mentioned of studying how we could potentially eliminate those barriers of the downtown rails. It also includes the Green Loop for us. And for me, our interconnectivity of downtown could be incredibly enhanced, and livability for families in our downtown could be generationally enhanced if we take some of our, 4-ox, 6-ox cart U-turn wide downtown streets, which we don't need on every single street, and convert some of that street space into a linear park. And the Green Loop is 5.5 miles. of linear park from 9th South on the bottom end. You can imagine the north end of Liberty Park over to 500 West. It would head north through the granary up to the intermodal hub. It's going to bank east around South Temple or North Temple. We're still working out which route there, and go on the east side down 2nd East, which would go between the library and City Hall and reconnect with 9th South. This is a transformational investment. It would impact our utilities, our stormwater, our transportation, our green space, obviously, and the livability of every resident within a 10 or 15-minute distance. The other big one is our Main Street Promenade. And that we've been studying sort of thanks to the pandemic, when businesses on Main Street said, we got to get out, we need more space, we need to be able to seat people. So we'd close Main Street for weekends, for many weekends at a time. And we've done it every year since then. In a nutshell, the businesses who've participated in what we call the Main Street opening have seen over a 20% increase in their revenue on those days. More people are coming out, 30,000 people a weekend just to walk, get a drink, eat, sit and watch people, push their strollers, whatever. We want to see it in a more permanent way. It will still include auto transportation, and we want to install the kind of infrastructure that could come up on the weekends and make it fully pedestrian, but be able to allow some passage for vehicles during the workday. And it would go from South Temple to 4th South. And then that 1T on 1st South that connects to the convention center from Main Street. This infrastructure hasn't been done since just before the Olympics. It's been about a quarter century since we've done anything serious. And we do have some utility infrastructure under Main Street in that section that's from 1897. So it's not just a superficial upgrade, but Carl Stoss, the chairman of the Future Host Commission, on his last visit at the last press conference, said, we want to bring the Olympics into the city, into the downtown. We want the Olympic experience to happen in the heart of the downtown core. And Main Street pedestrianization, a permanent metals plaza should be, I believe, an ambition of ours. And I think that something we miss as Utahns is a place that is our Olympic history. I hold on to the Tooele and Abravanel as one of those Olympic memories. We don't have a lot of places in the downtown core that symbolize what the games was to us. So those are some of our ambitions from Salt Lake City's perspective. Thanks.
Thank you for that. So there will be a lot of discussions about this in the future, and I'll be watching and looking forward to Pioneer Day this year, July 24th. 2024 is the day that we expect the official announcement. I know the governor intends to be in Paris on hand to sign that agreement to host the games, you know? So it's exciting. We will have a lot more conversations about this, and not just about the Olympics. As we keep having these conversations, we'll talk about other things like baseball and hockey and how transportation, really, how do we capitalize on all of these opportunities without overwhelming our system? What does that look like? We are at a really transformational doorstep here. The next season of transformation for the better. As we continue to grow, we know that Utah has become a mid-sized state, that we've reached the point where we have a lot of really great opportunities coming. This is probably not the last time you will hear me make a not very subtle plug to get a good volunteer gig for the Olympics again. You know, just saying. It was really great. I hope they pick me, you know, in 10 years as a volunteer. Anyway, thank you for this, and just know, keep this on it will be on your radar. You're not gonna be able to hide from this whatsoever. It's an exciting time. It's very cool. I don't know if how many of us will be in these seats until that time. And so what an amazing opportunity we have right now to do the foundational work of helping to make sure things happen that need to happen. And then whoever's sitting in these seats in 10 years, everybody will applaud their efforts and say, you guys are amazing. And all of us will know they are amazing, but you're welcome. That all these folks did a lot of heavy lifting to make it happen.
Could I close with a funny story about the games? Okay, so you all think everything is perfect, right? We had a few mistakes. The one that led our top 10 mistake list when we were doing our debrief for fun was one of my staff members was leading some of the recruitment, and we had our first time or that we were the first online application of any games in history to do an online the volunteer application. So we had 60,000 people respond, and we had 26,000 slots, 18,000 for the Olympic Games and 6,000 or 8,000 rather for the Paralympics. So we had to figure it out, and we knew that we needed people to work at least 8 shifts. So a letter went out, old school, or maybe it went computer too, but we wanted people really to say, are you really interested? This is a big commitment. So it outlined all of the things that they needed to do to apply. And we didn't look at it carefully enough because we, of course, required 8 shifts. But it went on, we said we need to do X, Y, and Z. And over the course of 17 days, we need a guarantee that you will be able to have 8 SHITS. The F was left out. If that's not top number 1, I don't know.
That's funny. For what it's worth, I didn't remember that my letter said that. I don't know. That is funny. That's awesome. That's funny, right? Things aren't perfect. Things like that happen. And I love now, this many years past that, we can laugh at that and go, that's great. Yeah. That's funny. Thank you. Okay, we are going to move on. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak? I'm going to open the public comment period now. And okay, in my council meetings, I never take a motion for that, but here we usually do. Do I need a motion for that? You don't need okay, because I never do at my council meetings. All right, then we're going to open the public comment period of the meeting and invite you to come up. Please give us your name and tell us where you're from, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Sure. Hi, my name is Andrew Katsaharakis. I'm a longtime Salt Lake City resident, and I'm here to give public comment about the Rio Grande Plan. I'd like to thank you first and foremost for the work that you as a body do in working to make life better and transit more efficient along the Wasatch Front, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak here today. As I said before, I'm here to urge this body to more formally investigate and consider the citizen-authored grassroots project known as the Rio Grande Plan. Now, some of you here may not have heard of the Rio Grande Plan. I suspect that many of you have. Just to get everyone here on the same page today, I wanted to give a brief overview of what the Rio Grande Plan is. As the councilor said before, you can look out the window right here and see one of the biggest problems facing Salt Lake City today. Freight and commuter rails cross through our downtown at grade, separating our city physically, socially, and economically. Freight trains often block off the 8 road crossings, sometimes for upward of an hour at a time, blocking Eastsiders and Westsiders from accessing each other's friends, family, businesses, and services within their own city. And frontrunner trains with up to 400 crossings at around 79 miles per hour a day have over the past couple decades killed several cyclists and pedestrians. With population along the Wasatch Front predicted to double by 2050, but the city predicted to double by 2050, UTA obviously is planning on increasing frontrunner crossings from around, I think, 400 to about 700 times a day. Our solution is simple. Via Rio Grande, the main group advocating for this project proposes to bury the rails under 500 West and reactivate the historic Rio Grande Depot as Salt Lake City's new central rail station. Doing this accomplishes several goals. It would help to physically close the scar separating Salt Lake City, making physical movement and wider socioeconomic integration between the east and west side possible. It would eliminate pedestrian and cyclist deaths with the elimination of these at-grade crossings, and importantly, as Frontrunner is increasing its crossings over time, it would prevent knock-on delays across the entire Frontrunner corridor that occur whenever such an incident occurs at these crossings. Reactivating the Rio Grande Depot itself would also deeply and efficiently integrate downtown Salt Lake City into the wider Wasatch Front region. Presently, passengers arriving at Frontrunner and Amtrak trains at Salt Lake Central are disconnected from downtown. The Rio Grande Depot, close to Pioneer Park, is significantly closer to popular destinations such as the park, the Delta Center, and the Salt Palace, as well as much better positioned along the future Green Loop and the Trax Orange Line, which would allow commuters all across the region again to better access the airport, the hospital, educational, and research facilities at the University of Utah, and the Veterans Affairs Hospital up at the U as well. And if you allow me to wax a little bit longer, I'm really glad that I was able to listen to this body speak today, because the Rio Grande Plan would massively integrate into the future Olympics. You know, we're going to have people from all over the world, cities with lots of people who are used to traveling by transit, coming here and staying in the city and wanting to get around ways that they're used to. So, you're going to have people who have beautiful train stations that they're used to. Grand Central Station in New York, Union in DC, Amsterdam Central in the Netherlands, Gare du Nord in Paris, Tokyo Central in Japan. Envision these people staying downtown at the Grand America, the Hyatt, the Hilton, the Marriott, and they're taking they're biking or walking along the Green Loop, and they see, as they get to downtown's main green space, Pioneer Park, they see a beautiful historic train station sitting over the park, and they pull out their phones and they think to themselves, I have a few days here. What's something that I could do? Oh, this Ogden that has a beautiful train station of its own and, a beautiful street on 25th Street is less than an hour away. I could make a trip up there. Oh, Provo, which is own beautiful historic downtown. I could go down there and get a collage from Huska's in like an hour as well. And all the stations in between the top and bottom of the line. The Rio Grande plan, by helping to integrate the rail network with the center of downtown, helps spread the Olympic wealth to the rest of the region and the rest of the state. Salt Lake is the gateway to the entire world, and it's also the gateway to the rest of the state. One more thing is that I was also down in Grand County and Moab this past weekend talking to people about the Rio Grande project and Link Utah, which is another volunteer project advocating for commuter rail throughout the state. And they are all about this. They love the idea of Salt Lakers, Utahns, and international visitors being able to more cleanly and efficiently get down to Moab, to Green River, to Helper, to Price, and to actually get involved, see what the state has to offer. This is a win-win, and I think that everyone should be rabidly for it. Salt Lake City has already established a commission to study the Rio Grande plan, but that is just one stakeholder. I urge this body to work with Salt Lake City and with all of its constituent stakeholders, city, county, UDOT, UTA, state legislature, to more deeply investigate and consider the Rio Grande plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak during public comment here in person? Okay, is there anyone online? No one online? Okay, thank you.
With this body's permission, I also have some pamphlets I could pass around really quick that have basic information. I can give that to someone as well, if that would be easier.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to turn to Commissioner Lorene Kamalu for an update on our Regional Growth Committee.
Thank you. I was able to fill in for Mayor Dan Doy, who has the radio voice. I can't quite do it like you, Mayor Dan Doy, but we did have a very good discussion in Regional Growth Committee this past week. So this is a brief item. There's just one action item. This is the Regional Transportation Plan, that transportation element of the Wasatch Choice Vision. So this body adopts the Regional Transportation Plan in its entirety every 4 years. And then about once a year, this body working with transportation partners and local communities, about once a year, we update the RTP to reflect changing conditions and funding opportunities for transit, roads, active transportation, and land use. So at our last RGC meeting, we unanimously recommended approving the final set of project updates as part of Amendment Number 1 to the 2023 through 2050 RTP. The amendment has gone through a number of steps leading up to this body's consideration for adoption today. And Jory Johnner, our director of the Wasatch Front Regional Council Long Range Planning Group, he will present this item. Thank you, Jory.
Thanks, Commissioner. Like the Commissioner mentioned, final step of our 2023-2050 Amendment Number 1. Gonna briefly review the amendment process and our milestones that we've met over the last few months, provide a high-level overview of the projects in the amendment, and then ask for your action at the end of the presentation on the amendment. We recognize this is the first time this board has seen the projects within the amendment formally, but if you want more detail, a list of the projects and the project details are within your packets. So there's a lot of information within the packets. I believe there's 10 or 11, 12 pages. So reminder, RTP developed on a 4-year cycle. The last plan was adopted a year ago, May 2023. It has a financial plan, is fiscally constrained, conforms to applicable controls, budgets, goals for on-road mobility sources and ties to your future land use plans and the Wasatch Choice Vision. It's divided into phases, each about a decade long, for both identifying when projects are needed and when funding is expected between now and 2050. And the RTP is the starting place for projects to move forward in prioritization of federal, state, and local funds for transportation projects. Periodically, adjustments are needed during the planning cycle due to things like changes in funding availability, changes to local or state needs, modifications to land use, the outcomes of environmental analyses or other studies, or updates to timelines on development of projects. Each amendment level includes a variety of different project types. Most are tied to federal regulations and requirements guiding our project classification on this side. So you can see here, hopefully it's a little small, level 1, which are staff modifications, include ownership changes, operational changes to roadways, modifications to needs-based phasing, all active transportation changes, and changes to the Wasatch Choice Vision centers. Level 2, board modifications include collector and minor arterial, roadway changes, non-fixed guideway transit projects, and changes to corridor preservation projects. And then finally, level 3 is our full amendment, or for principal arterials, freeways, and fixed guideway transit projects. Amendment number 1 includes a total of 37 projects spanning all 3 of these modes, and were recommended applications from UDOT, UTA, and local communities. On this slide, talk a little bit about the process for each of the amendment levels. The amendment process maintains the rigor of our planning process, including review of the financial constraints, public input, and air quality conformity. All projects were reviewed by the interagency consultation team, and the financial constraints were reviewed by Federal Highways. And both of those took place January 23rd and 24th, a few months ago. The amendment process for each of the 3 amendment levels are kind of outlined on the right side of this slide. And you can see level 1 is on the first column, level 2 in the middle, and level 3 on the right side there. So I'm going to step you through. You can see here, February 21st was the first time we brought this before the Regional Growth Technical Advisory Committees, which is mostly made up of your planners across the region. They reviewed those projects at that meeting. We then reviewed the projects with the Regional Growth Committee at the March 21st meeting. That committee approved the level 2 projects at the meeting. They also released the projects for a public comment period. At the meeting, we held that public comment meeting process from March 22nd till the end of April there. And then you can see we also send out a letter to each, or an email to each of the county councils of government, informing them of all of the projects. We don't want to put the burden on each of you as representatives of those COGs to report back, and sometimes the meetings don't line up. So we sent all the project information out to all the elected officials as part of those COGs. And then at the April 16th RGC meeting, we presented the comments from our public comment period and asked for a recommendation. At that meeting, or April 16th, did we do? Oh, April 16th, sorry, back up. April 16th, the level 1 projects were reviewed by Mayor Dandoy and Commissioner Khumalo, and then Andrew ultimately approved the level 1 projects. Sorry, May 16th, getting these months messed up. May 16th, so a week ago, RGC reviewed the comments and made a recommendation to council. And then our final step here is before you to make a final action on the amendment number 1. So very thorough process, again, reviewed by local communities, UDOT, UTA, prior to even starting the process, federal review, technical advisory committee, and multiple boards. So hopefully you feel confident in this, and it follows the amendment process that you all have approved for us. Per our amendment process, we've prepared a set of technical considerations that are similar to what we consider in developing a regional transportation plan. and they directly reflect and are tied to our Wasatch Choice vision goals. I'm going to briefly cover those here on the next slide before reviewing some individual projects with you. So to maintain the robustness of the planning process, we run a few technical considerations, and it depends on the amendment what makes sense. Since there were so many 37 projects, we did not run those on a project-by-project basis. Instead, we ran them on a county-wide basis. So you can see here, in high-level perspective, projects presented in this amendment will provide both more and safer connectivity by increasing active transportation network, providing more connectivity across barriers like roadways and highways, improving our transit connectivity, and improve access to the Wasatch Choice centers. For vehicle hours of travel and access to opportunity, this slide shows the benefit at the end of phase 1, so about 10 years from now, of the RTP. They're in comparison to our existing RTP and this amendment, so that's our comparison. And through new connectivity and increased capacity, we increase access to jobs and education in all 4 counties. However, there's a slight increase in VHT, which is the vehicle hours of travel, in Davis County by 2% and in Salt Lake County by less than 0.5%. Now I'll step through the project requests. So high level, again, these are all in your packet and were approved. You can see the level 1 projects were in Davis and Salt Lake counties. There were 12 level 1 requests from UDOT local communities in UTA, consisting of 9 active transportation projects and 3 transit projects. And as I made mention, approved on April 16, ultimately by Andrew. Level 2 projects included projects in Davis and Salt Lake County. These level 2 projects, there were 12 of them also from local communities, UTA and UDOT, making up of 9 roadway projects and 3 transit projects. And as I made mention, they were approved at the March 21st Regional Growth Committee unanimously there. Which brings us to the level 3 full amendment request located in Box Elder, Davis, and Salt Lake County. And with these, there were 13 level 3 requests from Farmington City, UDOT, and UTA, making up 3 transit projects and 9 roadway projects. These 13 projects are regionally significant and need your review and approval today. But first, I'll take a little bit of time and briefly discuss the details of each of the projects. And then we've also prepared in the packets, you have a link to all the public comments and our responses. I'm not going to go through all those, but I'll give you an example of the type of comment that we did receive during the public comment period. So the first project in the level 3 packet, a request was at the Point of the Mountain Transit Amendment. This is an update to mode and alignment from a bus rapid transit to a light rail transit per the Point of the Mountain environmental assessment led by UTA in close participation with UTA and local communities in the area. The light rail project is recommended to be fiscally constrained in phase 2 of the RTP, matching the recommendation from the study, which it's currently now the bus rapid transit is in phase 1. And then the alignment shift you can see on the map slightly changes just to accommodate the different modes between BRT and light rail. So we've made those changes or recommendations for that project. The next project is a new Point of the Mountain Frontrunner station associated with associated double tracking for the project from Draper to Lehigh. With funding identified by the Utah legislature, this is being requested to be added to the regional transportation plan. The cost on the slide is just for the station and the associated double tracking in WFRC. Our portion is about $120 million. The full project that would go down into Utah County into Lehigh is about $400 million. And the Mountain Land Association of Governments is currently working to amend this project into their, this and the previous project into their long-range transportation plan. The next 2 projects come from Farmington. This first project is the Farmington Station Area Plan. It's a new station stop or terminal. It will require further study, and it will connect to the planned fixed skyway innovative mobility zone project that connects to the Farmington Front Runner Station. So Farmington's doing some land use planning just north of the Front Runner Station and Station Park in Farmington, and they want to connect it with this project, a fixed guideway project that would connect that terminal to the Front Runner Station. So they're proactively looking at that connection. So they've made a request to add that project to the plan. The next project is a compilation of a few projects. This is the I-15 Farmington to Salt Lake City project. The EIS has recently been completed and recommends 5 general purpose lanes and a high occupancy toll lane. This will be updated from the 4 general purpose lanes and 2 HOT lanes currently in the regional transportation plan. So lane adjustment there. The project will also create improved interchanges with multiple safety features for pedestrian and bicycle use, including some of the amendments noted earlier, well, not noted earlier, in the level 1 project. So we've separated the active transportation projects that were level 1. There's standalone projects in the plan. This project updates the general lanes, and it actually compiles some of the existing interchange improvements new interchanges into 3 separate projects. So the overall project will be adjusted for those 3 segments: Farmington to 2600 South in Bountiful, 2600 South to the Salt Lake County line, the Davis County line to 400 South in Salt Lake City. There'll be 5 existing RTP projects be included in this overall projects, recommending removal of some standalone projects, as I may mention. So the standalone projects that are currently in the RTP that will still be built with this project include the I-15 Managed Motorways project. So this project will include managed motorway component, a parish lane interchange as currently standalone in our plan, but they're planning on doing the improvements there in Centerville. I-215 interchange upgrades. There are 2 separate projects. It was planned to be built in 2 different stages. That's now captured in the 1 project, and a new interchange or a new interchange update at Warm Springs Road there in the north part of Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. So kind of a jumbled set of projects. Know that everything that's going to be in our regional transportation plan, it matches up exactly with what's in the environmental impact statement. So they're lined up in sync together. And then finally, the last project in this level 3 set is a project up on I-15 in Box Elder County. It's going to add 2 miles of passing lanes, both north and southbound, that will help traffic efficiency and increase safety, specifically related to heavy truck traffic in the area. There's often trucks passing each other, and they just hold up the roadway section just north of Brigham City there. So WFRC held a 30-day public comment period from March 22nd to the end of April. We did receive 7 total comments. Most comments were related to operations and implementations of projects. These types of issues will be reviewed and dealt with by UDOT, UTA, or local communities as the projects get closer to implementation. As an example of a comment, one comment related to the new Front Runner Station at the point of the mountain was, it's too close to the existing Draper Station and will slow down Front Runner by adding such a closely spaced stop. Front Runner needs to be a few and far between with good connections, road, bus, light rail. Don't build this station. It should be noted that the project does include double tracking associated with this new station to help with the operations. We forwarded this comment to UDOT and UTA as they work towards implementation, as the funding has been identified. And so not going to go through all the projects or comments that we did receive, but that's in general how the similar comments that we did receive on this amendment. So Madam Chair, for level 3 full amendments, Both the Regional Growth Committee, Technical Advisory Committees review this back in February. Projects were reviewed in March by RGC, 30-day public comment. Along with not only this project, the projects, but the Air Quality Conformity Memorandum number 42, which is directly tied to this. And then last week, RGC, Regional Growth Committee, made a unanimous recommendation for your approval. So I'd open up to any questions about the level 3 projects or public comments.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Jory about any of these projects? Okay.
Very good. Well, with that then, I move that we approve the amendment number 1 to the 2023 to 2050 Regional Transportation Plan.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second on this?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner, can I just confirm that that motion includes approving the air quality conformity determination?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the second still includes that as well. Excellent. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Very good. Thank you, Jory.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Okay, Mayor Shepherd, Transcom.
Well, when you started talking Olympics earlier, I was really excited, volunteering, because I thought back to, when I got to volunteer the last time, and I think I was Mayor Mendenhall's age. And then I realized that by the time they show up, I'm going to be like Commissioner Stevenson's age, which really qualifies me to stand at the border of Salt Lake and say, welcome to the Olympics. And so I'm gearing up for that one. I'm set. I'm a practice.
You should be so lucky as to live as long as Bob Stevenson.
We basically got 3 items on our agenda today. Item 5A is the review of the materials that were in your packets, and then item 5B and 5C are action items. I'm going to turn the time over to the amazing Ben Withrich to cover those items for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, it's good to be with you here today as we have our initiation here with the Transportation Improvement Program. This document is important as it implements all of the projects that have been talked about. But today, as mentioned by Mayor Shepherd, we'll report on the board mod that took place at the Transcom meeting on the 25th. We do have a new board modification that we'll present to you today for your review and approval. And then we have the approval of the new projects to be included in the draft programs for the STP, which is Surface Transportation Program, CMAQ, which is Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program, TAP is the Transportation Alternative Programs, and the CRP, which is Carbon Reduction Program. And I noticed you're all looking at your phones, and I apologize. So here we go. So our very first thing to remember is Transportation Improvement Program implements the 6-year programs of highway transit and active transportation projects. It implements the long-range plans. All those projects that Jory just reviewed with us will implement through the TIP. It also meets the short-range needs of our existing system, and then with the dynamics of all the projects requires basically a board modification about every time we meet because of the dynamics. So the very first thing in your packet is a copy of the material. There's a table with a signed resolution. This is a resolution that contained one project that was before the Transcom meeting there. And if there's no questions on that, we'll proceed forward with board modification before you today. So in your meeting materials today, you'll have multiple tables, and there's quite a few projects that we'll review through that are part of this board modification today, and we'll go through each one in a fairly quick manner. The very first project here is a project in Salt Lake County. This is a West Valley request. This is on the Crosstown Trail. This trail will make improvements. Well, I'm just going to start all over. This project will construct sidewalk that's missing, as well as implement bike lanes on Parkway between 27th West and Bangor Highway. This project, when advertised, was under the engineer's estimate. So in order for this project to move forward, the city stepped forward to add additional funds for this project, bringing an amount of $700,000 for this project to be amended into the project, giving us a total project cost of $3.4+ million. The
Ben,
next
can I
project,
ask really quick, can you remind
yes.
us what south is that?
Yes, this is Parkway.
It's like 20 something south, 20.
So it's 2,700-ish?
Yeah,
27
sounds right.
Okay.
And I've ridden my bike on that road, so this is a good improvement. It's high on priority. Even if it's not my city, I would say yes. But I'll wait.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm just trying to get context for, I grew up out in that whole area, so I'm just trying to understand exactly where it's at. Perfect. Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll be a little more in detail, not skip around as much. The next project here is in West Jordan. This project here is on 7800 South, and this project will go from the Mountain View corridor out to SR 111. What this project will do is take a narrow 2-lane facility and it'll widen it to a 5-lane facility with shoulder, curb gutter, and sidewalk improvements as well. It'll also make improvements to this intersection here, 6500 West, which will create a roundabout in this particular area or this intersection. This project
the fire
also
station over there in the corner, which is real critical. Sometimes that fire trucks have trouble getting out because of the backup traffic there. And this road is probably one of the biggest bottlenecks we have in West Jordan. So this is also critical. Even though I live in the city, I'd vote for this one too.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'm going to hand you my whole packet. But on this particular project, this is one, again, kudos to the city because this project is preparing to advertise. And because of the way our meetings align, the city has stepped forward with the additional funds. So this request is to add an additional $1.2 million to this project, giving us a total project cost of $10.2+ million. The next project we have to look at is also, well, it's in Tooele. This is on Tom's Lane. What this will do is extend Tom's Lane from Church Road to Crocran Lane. This is a 2-lane facility. Right now it doesn't exist, but what it'll do is construct this facility. This project also is, as they began to design it, realized that the budget was not enough to accomplish the original intent. And so the city is also bringing additional funds to this project at $1+ million, giving us a total project cost of a little more than $2.6 million. The next project happened back in 2021. As you'll recall, back in November 2021, the president signed what was called an Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the new transportation bill. With this bill came an amount of discretionary grants like we've never seen before. A lot of opportunities, money that's supposed to be flowing, but it takes a lot of work to go after these funds. So back in the state fiscal year, what SFY stands for, in 2023, UDOT put together a team to put together grant applications. They put together 21 applications that totaled more than $351 million. And from that effort, they were successful at bringing $49+ million back to the state of other federal funds. The request is to add additional funds for this project, and I'll get to that in just a second because I want to highlight what the department is doing right now. So for this year, in the state fiscal year 2024, they've already accomplished 30 applications. They have 11 more that they're going to work on. Out of those 30 applications, they total more than $649 million that they're going after. So far to date on those 30 applications, they've already been successful in accomplishing $177+ million. And there's $198 million pending still on those original 30 applications with 11 more to go. So the request is to add an additional $100,000 to this development grant committee so that they can continue to develop the grants through this state fiscal year, giving us a total project of $350,000. That brings us to the next table, which identifies two more projects that we'll talk about. The first project here is in Salt Lake County. This is a UDOT project. This is on 3300 South. This project was a pavement project where they wrote a mill down 1 inch and overlay an inch back. This project was originally scoped to go from Highland Drive up to I-215, but as they got into the design of the project and cost of the project, they realized there wasn't enough funding for this project. So they analyzed the structure to see what could be done, or they talked, and it was decided that what they would do is request a scope modification to reduce the length of the project from Highland Drive to 27th East, and then they would do that future segment when it was necessary so that they could move forward on this project. So this request is to change the scope. It does nothing to the amount of funds for the project. The project is a $3.2 million project. And then they'll address the section to the east when it's necessary and there's available funding. The next project is a project that involves the state bridge inspection. So back in May of 2022, an updated rule was published to the U.S. Code pertaining to the in-service bridge inspections. The specification for the bridge inventory was introduced as a guide for federally mandating specific data. This required that the department would need to update or upgrade what they currently do. They will ask for 20 or 61 additional data items plus 90 additional other items per structure. And so as the department is preparing for this, as they've had opportunity to analyze it, review and understand, they're requesting that over the next couple of years, that the structure division will put together a team. They'll have consultants. They'll put together a management strategy to be able to identify and collect all the data that is necessary so that they will comply. By 2026, they're supposed to be able to gather all of that information for more than 3,000 bridges. But by 2028, they're supposed to be able to report all that. So the request is to add a new project for $3.5 million to take the 2 years in preparation for establishing a program that will enable them to collect all the appropriate data. So this new project is for $3.5 million. The next project that we have before us here is, oh, I guess it's the new table. Man, we're moving faster. If you need me to go backwards, I can go backwards too. But on this particular project here, we want to just identify some of the structures we have statewide. If you look at all the structures, that's a lot of structures across the state. And if you look just at our corridor here along the Wasatch Front, there's quite a few that are being addressed right there. And it's amazing the work that goes on, not only to the structures, but especially to the bridges as you look at all the work that is taken care of, oftentimes when none of us are awake. Be pretty awesome to run one of them. Anyway, you'll recall that there was a list of projects, 90 bridge projects that the department put together. The majority of those were on projects on local facilities. As the structures division was reviewing the list, they identified that there were 8 projects. Here's a map of all of the projects, but you'll notice that there's a few red dots. Those red dots represent projects that were uneligible for the bridge funding program because of various reasons. One, either there was a maintenance agreement or ownership agreement that wouldn't allow the money to be used on that structure, or the improvements had already been accomplished. But in your meeting materials is a copy of the table, and that identifies those projects that were removed in the gray. There were 10 projects added to the program. 8 of those projects were local government projects, and 2 of them were state projects. And so this program, this board modification is to take the old projects off and put those 10 new projects on and continue this program moving forward. The next project is for the state programs. The state programs, every year we amend the transportation improvement program because the state funded programs are amended into the existing TIP in May prior to the state fiscal year. I thought I'd be faster reading this than talking it. While I explain more of the board modification, I'm going to let the presentation slide through some pictures that represent some of the items covered in these programs. So these programs include funding levels for system preservation programs, operations and safety programs, regional contingency funds, and other programs in regional concepts and development. So the modification approves the program funding levels, but each program is treated individually. So the table colors indicate the project and the program action. For example, the blue there is previously funded year there, so you can see 2024 is all the blue. You can see the orange is what's being proposed. You can see that the other color of blue, I should have changed that, was previously approved as well. But this is the state funded projects, that the programs that need to be amended into the program. Now that total is $624+ million that is for this next year's program, or the 2025 program. The next project is our TIF highway. You'll recall that the Transportation Commission, they consider the highway projects as they're currently ranked by the Department of Transportation, that the commission disperse projects statewide geographically, and that the commission consider projects beyond the normal program horizon. I'm not going to read every slide, but this was important that you know and understand that this was legislatively driven. And so as the commission puts together through that prioritization process, there is a very detailed process where they identify the projects that are moving forward. And so some of these projects, like this very first one, happens to be in our area. It's a project on I-84 in US 89, a project that was mentioned by Andrew. This project got an additional $190 million in this recommendation on the TIF funds. The following project is a project in Honeyville, out of our area. The next one is additional funds to the Bangor interchanges, $480 million into that project there. And then the next projects are all outside our area in Lehigh, or Region 3 are the next 4. And then we've got passing lanes down in Payson and widening of I-15 down in St. George, as well as improvements there. And so you can see that the new program, there's $2.1+ billion of new program TIF funds. And in the WFRC area, we had more than $670 million brought to our program. So let's
And
jump.
just a quick clarification, you mentioned the legislature, so the state legislature provided additional funding for the program, but the project prioritization goes through the process, comes out of the long-range transportation plan, and then goes through the TIF prioritization process that the department administers in collaboration with the commission. So it's a combination of funding being provided and then the use of professional processes and criteria to advance projects.
Perfect, thank you, Andrew. You know, if it keeps going, me and the next guy that are the last one standing will have a soda and I'll grab you a candy bar. But then we go into the last couple of projects here. This is the TTIF. Now this is similar, but this is for the transit projects. And so if we look at the transit projects that were recommended this year, all 3 of them are in the Wasatch Front area. You got the Davis-Salt Lake Connector, which was mentioned earlier there for the Olympic preparation. S-Line extension, you've got the front runner station at the point of the mountain and the double tracking. So there was a total of $227+ million programmed, and all of that $227+ million is programmed in the Wasatch Front area. Significant benefit there. Then at last, we've got the Utah Trails Network. This is pretty exciting. As you'll recall, back in 2023 legislative session, they approved Senate Bill 185. And that included an allocation of $45 million in ongoing and $45 million one-time funding to UDOT to build, operate, and maintain a paved regional trail network. Pretty impressive. Well, the department took this serious. They created a new division. It's the Trails Division. They've been to every community. They're working with everybody to identify where those trails need to be that'll benefit, supplement the local trails. In your packet or in your meeting materials, you'll have a list of those projects that have been identified. There were 7 projects that are in the Wasatch Front area. But as you look at the network or the trails, and it's under the ATIF or Active Transportation Investment Funds, $80,400,000. Now in the news you hear we've done 94 plus million. Well, that's because there's a $14.5 million of local funding match. And there was out of that 80.4 million that was programmed, 29.9 million of it is in the Wasatch Front area. So pretty awesome.
Where'd that picture come from?
Off of UDOT's website.
Pretty groovy. You guys should make t-shirts out of that.
Ben, he can have the credit. Wonderful. Well, that's all of this board modification.
Okay, do we have any questions for Ben? Seeing none, I'd move that we approve the modifications to the 2024-2029 TIP.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Okay,
Those are approved, and thank you. This is important stuff. Our numbers are dwindling. Our Olympics conversation went kind of long. It's an important conversation, but it went long. This is very important stuff. There's a lot to this and a lot of important projects. Thank you.
And he's just getting started because now he's going to talk about 2025, 2030 TIP.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, and I want to say that because you guys talk so long about the Olympics, we don't get the opportunity for Ben to make us ice cream sundaes like he did at the committee meeting. And you guys should all attend Transcom more often. It's very fattening.
At the heart. Thank you, Mayor. So this is an exciting part. So let me walk you through this in a real quick manner here. Oh, they clicked off my clicker. Oh, thank you. All right, so you've seen this chart before, but I'm going to explain a little of the details of what goes, because the next slide looks like this. Oh, that's not the one. I guess I took it out. So I was thinking ahead. Here we are. So in September, you'll recall that in our August meeting, this body gives us approval to go out with a request for letters of intent. So in September, we send out a letter of intent. What that letter of intent is a real generic, a basic letter that simply wants to know a name of a project, the objectives of the project, and the estimated cost. And that letter of intent is that project sponsor's intent to potentially submit a concept report. So that goes out, all of the local governments, UDOT, UTA, send them back. We do a real high level evaluation of eligibility on the projects. Then we request that they prepare a project evaluation concept report, or an application in short. So they prepare that, and that's due to us back in the middle of December. And then that collects for us specific data. How big is it? What color is it? How many people use it? And what does it do? Those are things we can measure on every project the same. So that collects that data. Then we have an opportunity to go out on a field review. We go out on site, meet with the project sponsor, and we have a team that goes with us. We ask questions, we analyze, and we talk about what this project's going to do. We bring that back. We have additional conversations with the sponsors and in-house. We collect all this information. We bring it to our technical advisory committee in March, and that's your engineers, your public works people. And we present all this information to them. Now, we've already presented information in January and in February, and now we're back in March with all this information, and we request from them, after we share with them a recommendation of good projects, they take that information and they prepare the recommendation that's submitted to Transcom. Transcom then receives that information in April, and then they make a recommendation, and we bring that to you today. So that's where this kind of is right here. And then from here, we'll take your recommendation. If and when approved on the draft projects into the draft programs, we prepare the draft tip, the 25-30 tip. Then we'll get recommendation from Transcom in June to go out for public review and comment during the month of July. And then we'll be back in August for your review and approval of all the information we'll bring you about what happened to the tip during the summer. So that you have an idea, here's what took place up in the Ogden-Layton area. You can see the map, the little dots identify those projects where we went. There were 51 projects that were submitted in the Ogden-Layton urban area. Now the total, I had to clarify on this because I mix up folks, the total estimated project cost is over $446 million. So that's if we took those 51 projects, that's what it's going to cost to build all those 51. Well, out of that 51 projects, 31 of them were requesting 110 million plus of STP funds. And we had 8.5 million available. Out of that 51, there were 6 projects that were coming after CMAQ funds with a total of 11.8 plus million, and we had 4.3 available. And you can see for the TAP, there was 8, and for the CRP, there were 6, and you can see the amount of ask for the federal funds and the amount that we had available. Well, the same thing's in the Salt Lake area. In the Salt Lake area, you can see where the dots were, where we went. There were 58 projects totaling more than $583 million. 30 of those 58 projects were asking for STP funds, asking for almost 140 million of STP funds. We had 24.4 million available. And you can see that on each of those programs, 30, 11, 10, and 7. So you can see there's a significant need, but that's a lot of demand on a small amount of dollar. Well, so then we take all that data that we collected from those project concept reports, right? And we take all that other information that we collect as we're in the field or as we're talking in discussion, and we look at all of those others. We refer to those as thank you, Andrew, other relevant professional considerations. I'm not nervous. Anyway, we identify the best projects for the amount of funds that are available. That's the intent of all the information we gather. Now, on the information you got in your packets, there's tables. There's a table for each of the programs, and those tables have a summary of the name of the project and what they are, and in the criteria, and there's a score associated with the criteria. That's the measurement of the data only. It doesn't include all those things you can't measure. And we put those on there, and they're ranked by the score that's identified by the amount of data. And in the yellow that are highlighted with the blue down the left-hand column, those are the projects that have been recommended, and the blue is the amount of funds that have been recommended for the project. So in some places, like the STP up here in the upper left-hand corner, we've got 2 recommended, and we skip 1, and then 3 recommended. Over in the CMAQ, where's my CMAQ? The CMAQ's in the upper, we skip the first one, then we have 2, and then we skip the next 4, and then we have 1. Part of that information is because we have the data, we have the data, and then there's those other relevant professional considerations that help us identify the good project. That's why there's skips on projects. If you're wondering, why did we skip that one? Well, there's other reasons why we identified a good project. So on those programs then, we identify in the STP, there were 7 projects recommended in the Ogden-Layton area, and they totaled 10.5 million. There were 12 recommended in the Salt Lake area, and they equaled more than 24 plus million. Well, here's a list of those projects, and we'll go through each one individually. I'm kidding. No, we won't. So we got a list of projects here in the Ogden-Layton. What's that? And then here's the project list for the Salt Lake. But we will go through one project. What kind of projects do you look at when you're out? What do they bring? Well, here's a project in Bountiful City. Some of you might be familiar with this. We're looking down 5th West. That's the old Bamberger Road. They call it the parking overpass. I didn't know that till now. But the Bamberger is what I've always referred to it. But the Bamberger Road or bridge, this bridge has long lived its life. And it needs to come out. What's the solution? Build a new bridge, or what do we do? Well, we've got a lot of other traffic issues along there, so they came up with a strategy. So here it is located right there. You can see 5th West comes over. 2nd going to 4th West goes over. Well, I meant 5th West goes under. Anyway, you can see how there's a lot of movement of traffic around there. And so a new structure. Well, here's the idea. What we do is, yes, thank you. Thank you. And in fact, that's right there is Woods Cross High parking lot. So what the idea is, all right, we take this facility out and we bring the whole structure up to grade level, and we have an improved intersection, signalized intersection. We address each of the traffic movements in and around the area, bringing a much safer project. Well, total project is $8+ million. The funds being requested is $3.5 million. All the way up through Transcom, they felt it was a worthy, good project, but we don't have all the money, but we were willing and recommended to put the $2 million. We know it's important. Here's the $2 million. Well, let's look at the CMAQ program then. Similar idea, 3 programmed in the Ogden-Layton area, 5 in the Salt Lake area. So here's those project list. Well, what kind of project do you look at? Well, let's look at this one. Here's a project in Salt Lake City. This is up by Hogle Zoo. Maybe some of you have been up there, Sunnyside Avenue and Crestview Drive as you go up Immigration Canyon. Well, here it is on an event up there. And if you look close, you can see police cars around to try to control the traffic as you've got people going up and out and in and around, and you got bikes and peds, even with the snow on the ground. Very busy location. So the idea is to construct a roundabout in that area with this study. That'll reduce emissions, it'll improve air quality, it'll reduce the speed, it'll improve the safety. It's a win-win opportunity to take that 3-leg intersection and create a roundabout. Well, TAC recommended, all right, or not, the Transcom recommended the full requested amount of $762,000. The next program is Transportation Alternative Programs, 5 projects in the Ogden-Layton, 5 in the Salt Lake area. Here's the list of the projects in the Ogden-Layton area. Here's a list of the projects in the Salt Lake area. And let's look at the project there. Well, here it is kind of zoomed way up. This is a project up in Mill Creek. This is actually a crosswalk bike facility right there in the heart of the picture. If we zoom in a little, you can see, well, that looks great there. There's not a problem in the world till you get down on the ground. Now look what we have. Over in the right-hand corner, you've got a steep catwalk that comes down. And then you've got 3 steps and a guardrail to bring you down to the street level as you're coming down. Then you've got a road that has a very high crown right here. And at the base of where your ped crosswalk is, and the sidewalk is where a puddle forms, because that's the lowest point of the road, because you had to have a level landing. Well, with all of those issues, then you get to the west side of that, and you've got a soft shoulder that separates from the asphalt. In fact, I don't know when it happened, but it was within a few months while we were out on the field review. Before we got out there, they shared with us that a young mother there to walk home with some of the older school kids was pushing her stroller, come down that west side, turned wrong, and rolled the baby out onto the ground because of the differentiation between the surfaces. Anyway, important safe route to school project. The estimated ask was for $376,000. Transcom recommended the full requested amount because of the baby. No, the baby's good. We named him Dollar though. So I'm kidding. That wasn't nice. Sorry. Carbon reduction program.
Nothing like babies rolling around on the ground to get money, right?
Yeah. Well, sorry about that. So the carbon reduction program here, we got 2 projects in the Ogden-Layton area, 3 in the Salt Lake area. These projects here are listed here with the Ogden on top, the Salt Lake on the bottom. Well, let's look at a project then. Last one here is an intersection improvement up far west. So there's if we go back here, you can see up, if you're familiar, there's a lot of truck traffic now. There's, I can't remember the name of the facilities in that, but there's a lot of trucks. So this is an at-grade 4-leg intersection with 4 stop signs. A lot of movement, a lot of traffic through that area, especially in the morning and in the evenings, but throughout the day. The intent of this project is to potentially construct a roundabout depending on the right-of-way necessary, or a signal, but that depends on the utilities that are overhead. So the intent is to fix this intersection. So Transcom recommended the $900,000 of the amount of money and encouraged them to go after it. And Weber County thought this was also a very good project, worthwhile of an investment. So that is all the projects for the new programs. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions for Ben? Okay, Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the addition of the new projects that have been reviewed and recommended by Transcom in these 4 programs.
I'll second that.
And I just want to, my comment is to thank Ben and just the enthusiasm in getting through that much material. It's fun to see people so excited about projects and planning. And I think everyone in this room, we all feel that way. Thank you for the good work.
Yeah. Thank you, Ben. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Those are approved.
Okay, I would note that, Mayor Silvestrini drew attention to, the ice cream. If you've never sat through Transcom and Ben's explanations during Transcom and his ice cream description of how these projects, when he talks about those that were skipped, it is the best presentation you'll ever go through, as he puts ice cream on a table and ends up one with a very good sundae and the other just really good ice cream. Both good projects. This one just happens to have a little more connectivity or whatever else comes with it, that it's more beneficial, and very descriptive way. And it is our favorite day of the year. And Jeff got to chair for me because I was in DC that week. And so at some point, Ben and I are going out for ice cream. And we do have our it's oh. How do I even continue after that? Our final item is an information item, is the adoption of the comprehensive safety action plan. At our last WFRC meeting in March, we adopted a resolution to emphasize safety for all users in our transportation planning efforts, with a goal of reducing fatalities and serious injuries by 2.5% each year as we strive for 0 roadway fatalities. And at the April meeting of Transcom, they adopted the safety action plan for our region. And I'm going to turn the time over to Mayor Silvestrini and Kit Billings to just give us the
yeah, thank
highlights.
you, Mayor. Very briefly, so the Regional Council essentially delegated to Transcom the approval of the Safety Action Plan, and one of the reasons for that was it needed to be drafted. It's an extensive document. It's like 120 pages long. It addresses basically the safety concerns with respect to our entire region in detail, and it's prepared with consultation with our engineering and our planning staffs around the region. And Kip's going to talk about where it is on the website, so you can dig into it with respect to what's recommended for your community. The reason that it was important that we get it adopted by a date certain, which is already, I guess, gone, is that we have to have the plan in place in order to be eligible for some federal funding that's available to address some of these safety issues. So we met that deadline, plans in place, and Kip, I'm going to turn it over to you just to really briefly tell the members of the council or the public where they can access the information.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I wanted to make you aware of this new resource that's available on our website. Jordan has navigated here under programs. You see Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. And one addition to Mayor Silvestrini's comment about the 120-page document, we did that for each geographic focus area, and there's 11 of those. So this is really more like a 1,200-page plus document. So in that document, you'll find various maps, a lot of data analysis, looking at crash histories and factors, recommended safety strategies. We did that on the regional scale, and as I mentioned, we also looked at it at the local level. So each community in the Wasatch Front has some very focused safety analysis available to them. We want you to think of this as a living document. We'll be updating that safety analysis and periodically in the future. We will also be coming to this body and maybe others on an annual basis to report progress of how safety is improving and what kind of projects have been implemented to improve safety. So we will also be reporting this to the technical advisory committees, spend a little more time with them and get the engineers and planners in your communities familiar with this material. And so we would just encourage and invite you to regard this as a resource that's available to your communities. As was mentioned, this, if you wanted to apply for Safe Streets for All funds, this plan needed to be in place in order to qualify, but we want you to think broader than that, that in all of your roadway planning and engineering projects that you take advantage of this resource and make those better projects.
Thank you very much, Kip. And again, huge shout out to Ben and Wayne. Thank you for making me look good. Appreciate it. That is our report.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I know that the other MPOs around the state are working on their comprehensive safety action plan, but having ours complete and having us able to apply for some of that money, whatever, it's really important, and just appreciate all the work that's gone into that. We had the chance to kind of discuss this. It's the Utah League of Cities and Towns Spring Conference, and answer a bunch of questions. We had good people there answering a lot of questions. Anyway, this is just very important, and just appreciate that. And one takeaway I got from that, you know, as we strive for zero roadway fatalities, and it's easy to think that will never happen. I will never forget them saying in 2023, this last year, Alexandria, Virginia. Think about how busy Alexandria, Virginia is. Zero fatalities. It's a big deal, and it is something that we can strive for. It's something worth working for. So thanks for all the work on this. All right, our Active Transportation Committee, Mayor Walker is not able to be with us today, and I think Mayor Petro is going to take that. Yes, please.
Yes. This is last man standing, right? Okay, I'll make it quick then. And I have to say, I love Ben's enthusiasm as well. So, you know, he's the best one to keep us all going. We don't need any more caffeine than that. We just need Ben. So anyway, quick update on the active transportation. Obviously, it's been Bike Month, and there's been a lot of participation there. There was over 300 participants for the Golden Spoke. And they had participants from Roy, Mill Creek, West Valley, Provo, and everybody convened then at the Jordan River Nature Center. So it was a good event, and we appreciate everyone that did that. I know Mayor Troy Walker also wants everyone to know that he held a Bike with the Mayor event at his Porter Walkwell station to the point of the mountain. So he's encouraging all the rest of us to do our Bike with the Mayors, I guess, events. And he says, you know, there's still time left in the month, but as far as I'm concerned, there's time left in the year for us to do this. It doesn't. Moving on then to our Utah Trails Network. Earlier this month, the Transportation Commission program funding for the initial round of the Utah Trails Network projects, which can begin the design and the construction immediately. The funding in the WRF, Wasatch Front Regional Council and MAG areas is $40.2 million for 8 construction projects and 2 design projects. So it's pretty exciting to know that there's a lot of effort and passion that's going into this, and especially with the focus on biking and improving our walking, which we've just all spoke about. And I'm excited about the fact that there's such a big tie-in also for the Olympics, knowing that this is active transportation is going to help enhance that as well. So that's pretty much our report for now, other than, like I said, just think alternative transportation whenever you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, Mr. Gruber, we're turning it to you for our Executive Director's report.
Thank you very much. And Madam Chair and members, I will be brief, and I'll say thank you for those of you that are still here. We really appreciate your service and your dedication. And I want to say thank you to our great staff. we presented a lot of information here today about the regional transportation plan, the transportation improvement program, and so much work goes into that from their teams and really our analytics group and everybody else supporting that work in conjunction with the cities and the counties and UDOT and UTA. So just thank you very much for all of the great work. And speaking of our staff, that's the only thing I want to do here in my executive director's report. I want to recognize just two people, one person for a service anniversary, and then I want to introduce you to one of our new interns. Megan Townsend, Meg, where's Meg? Meg, stand up and wave to everybody. So there's Meg Townsend. You all know Meg. Meg came to WFRC 10 years ago as an intern, and she's now the director of our community and economic development group. So it's we're recognizing her for this milestone today. Meg has a Master of City and Metropolitan Planning from the University of Utah, a graduate certificate of real estate development, also from the U of U. And those of you that have worked with Meg know that she blends a knowledge of both urban planning policy and private market dynamics. So she's an expert in understanding how these relate to each other, especially in how they work together to create great places in your communities like city and town centers. And it's so important, you know this, to be able to understand the public sector and the private sector, transportation, land use, market dynamics and how they fit together. And Meg's a real expert and leader in those areas in WFRC and in our community. She's also involved in our community. She's the board chair and a founding member of the Seven Canyons Trust, a nonprofit organization. And her great work and talents have been recognized. Among other things, she was recognized as one of Utah Business Magazine's 20 in their 20s. Yes, in her 20s, you heard that right. And she was also the recipient of the University of Utah College of Architecture and Planning's Distinguished Young Alumni Award, well deserved. On the personal side, she is a force to be reckoned with on the competitive sand volleyball circuit. And final point, Meg is also engaged to be married this fall to that handsome young man sitting to her left. That's Thomas. Thomas, great to see you. So please join me in thanking Meg for her 10 years of service. And then the last thing I'll do is I want to introduce, is Manu here? Manu is here, terrific. So to one of our interns, Manu Abrashami, is working in our analytics group. She is a data scientist and GIS intern. Now, Manu grew up in Iran, and she has a background in university in both remote sensing and GIS and in urban and regional planning. She moved to the United States to pursue her PhD in landscape architecture and environmental planning at USU in Logan. So you heard that right. She's commuting from Logan. Maybe we'll keep her around and she'll move closer. I don't know. Maybe she can talk to Tim about that also. But since joining us at the beginning of May, she's been working with Bert on mapping Olympics-related infrastructure, with Josh on housing unit inventories for Tooele and Box Elder counties, and she's soon going to be working with Sarah on access to parks and open space. So join me in welcoming Manu to WFRC. Ooh, Madam Chair, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. And Meg, I mean, I can't even imagine WFRC without Meg. So thank you. Thank you. Thanks to all of you for hanging in there. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for everything that you do. You know, I meant it when I said when the Olympics actually happen, I don't know if any of us will still be in those same seats, but it is a remarkable opportunity for us now to make the plans and lay the groundwork and have the vision to get things right. And then we'll have a reunion of the founding partners when the games come. Yeah. Okay. With that, unless anyone has anything else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Aye.
Thanks, Mayor, for sticking with us.
I think we've lost our quorum, which means that that motion to adjourn did not take effect. So you have to stay. You have to stay. Just kidding.
We're not staying. You're excused. Yeah.